bidding is now open for those two nominations will be accepted. All right, well, we're happy to have you here. Is this broadcasting is properly, or is our, seems like it used to be louder, but we don't want to be louder. Sound good? Raise your hand in the back. Ah, see?
You sounded good to me, but I'm sitting right next to you, so.
We've only been here a week, so.
I couldn't hear you at all.
No hearing at all. Well, I have a coat. What's the deal? The deal was 100 degrees, no coat.
Well, Adam's trying to ditch the tie, and now
I'm
you're trying to ditch
lose the
coat,
tie in
so.
exchange for the coat, so.
All right.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I do have a coat in the truck, so. All right. Having said that, we'll now like to begin our Board of Commissioners meeting for today, the 7th of September, 2021, beginning at 4 o'clock. We appreciate those who are here with us today. We do want to emphasize that these proceedings will be rebroadcast on our community education channel for those who are interested in reviewing it again. And of course, we welcome those who are on Zoom. But the channels are 22 and 108 in 10 o'clock, 2 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. again on our your TDS cable channel. We also have a youtube.com community, community /education channel. So those are also areas where you or others would like to review these proceedings. We'd like to begin now with an invocation by Sharon Shores, who is joining us via Zoom, and welcome from the Universal Life Church Ministries as part of our local faith communities. Sharon, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're wonderful. Would love to hear your invocation.
All right. Thank you. Let us pray. Dear wise and loving Father, we thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today for your many and abundant blessings, for life itself, for the measure of health that we need to fulfill our callings, our sustenance, and for our friendships. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work, and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities that are both great and expansive. Thank you for loving us from your boundless and gracious nature. We thank you for the governing authorities in our communities, for their leadership, for their knowledge, for their willingness to serve, knowing that you have established these very authorities to promote peace, order, and justice. Therefore, I pray for our council, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council this evening. I ask that you grant them wisdom to govern among the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and the true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is doing that is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, and especially personal peace in their lives and joy in their work. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and would benefit those who live and work and around in our beloved Washington County. In your most blessed name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sharon, so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
And you're welcome to stay with us. It'll be riveting.
I will through the Pledge of Allegiance, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Brent, would you lead us, unless somebody from Post 100 came. Brent, would you lead us in the flag salute? Thank you, Brent. We have two things that are on our agenda. I'm looking after our consent agenda where they might be placed. All right. What we have is a presentation from Intermountain. We've asked them in a somewhat critical status of our county. When I say critical, I don't mean like it's imminent, but we definitely would like to have them present something to us. And then after that, who's here representing Constitution Week?
Oh, they left. We're doing it next time.
Next time, okay. Well, that's coming up. Do you have something to plug in first, Doctors Carol, Mitch?
Yes, I have it right here. Let's see.
Show some slides that I think will be illustrative.
Please
Demonstrate where
introduce
we're at.
yourselves as you speak in your
Absolutely.
position at with Intermountain.
So my name is Patrick Carroll. I'm the medical director of St. George Regional Hospital and a neonatologist by training, which makes me a pediatrician, then neonatologist, but now medical director of the hospital. And we were asked, as Commissioner Almquist mentioned, to come and give a status of the hospital and kind of where we're at from a COVID standpoint, but really from an overall standpoint as well. As we're getting the slides up and running, I wish I was coming with really good news, and unfortunately I'm not coming with really good news. What I am here to share is simply what we're seeing, and that is that we have a full hospital. We have a hospital that is approximately 25% filled with patients for COVID, and the remaining patients are not do not have COVID. Why don't we go through some of the slides here, and then we can kind of fill in the gaps on there. So let's go to the next slide. So this is just an example of a bed report that we get every day that you're seeing here on the screen. And we're licensed for 284 beds at St. George Regional Hospital. And so what you see here down at the bottom is we started September 2nd on Thursday morning with 298 patients. So that's more patients than we're licensed for by the state. We were able to take care of those patients. We have more rooms than what we're licensed for, and we have an exception to be able to go above our licensed beds. However, at the top is probably the thing that's even more concerning to me. And it says we're short 12 RNs and 8 PCTs. RN is a nurse, a PCT is a patient care tech. And unfortunately, that's a common thing that we're seeing every 12 hours when we get our reports. And that's not for lack of hiring. That's not for lack of posting and looking for nurses. In contrast to what's been shared there, we, the hospital, did not go through any layoffs, any significant nursing or any nursing layoffs. We have continued to move forward with hiring. And our hospital's full. Next slide, please. So what this graph shows is the number of COVID patients in the hospital. And so on the left-hand side, you see it goes from 0 to 80. The blue line is the blue solid line is the number of patients rolling 7-day average. So back in the winter, you see that we went to about 71, 72 patients on a 7-day rolling average. At the end of, that was 8/25 you see there, we were approaching that number. Now keep in mind this, back in the winter when we had COVID patients in southern Utah, we transferred most of them to St. George. So there were very few COVID positive patients in the hospital in Cedar City. That's no longer the case. Last week there were 15 to 20 COVID patients in the hospital in Cedar City in addition to these patients in the hospital. The yellow solid line shows the ICU patients. We have a 32-bed ICU. And at the end of last week, we were averaging about 27 COVID patients over the prior 7 days for COVID. We peaked out at 144% ICU capacity. We've not been below 100% ICU capacity in, I think it's been 19 days. So we've been over 100% ICU capacity for nearly 3 weeks, which means we are no longer doing elective surgeries that require an ICU bed. We're limiting the number of surgeries that require a regular bed. So this isn't just COVID patients any longer. We received a phone call about 2 patients need to be transferred today. And we said we don't have a bed for them. and this happened last weekend as well. We had a patient that was from Kanab, and they called and said, we need an ICU bed. I said, we're really sorry. We have to find another hospital for you because we don't have a bed for you in St. George, because we were over 100% capacity. This is becoming a daily occurrence. This is something that we're facing. This is reality. What you see on the bottom red that kind of looks brown is patient deaths, with the scale on the right there. I looked at the numbers today. In the last 7 days, we've had 10 patients die from COVID in our hospital. That's more than almost 1.5 per day from COVID. Nearly every patient that is dying with COVID is unvaccinated. Those that are vaccinated, at least half of them have had a kidney transplant or on an immunosuppressant medication. We can do more than what we're doing, and I think we as a community have really banded together previously, and I think we can do it again. Next slide. This shows what I was telling you. This was from a week ago. The blue dots are on the left-hand side is all the COVID patients in the hospital. The blue dots are those that are not vaccinated. The yellow are partially vaccinated, and the green are fully vaccinated. In the middle, some of those hospitalized patients are in the ICU. On this particular day, none of them were vaccinated, partially or fully. Some of those patients in the ICU were on a ventilator. On this particular day, none of those were vaccinated. They were all unvaccinated, every patient. We're seeing the average age of the unvaccinated patient decline compared to what we saw last winter. When we look at the data for vaccinated versus unvaccinated patients in our hospital throughout the Intermountain system, the average age for a vaccinated patient is about 10 to 15 years older than the unvaccinated patient. The unvaccinated patient has on average 1.5 comorbid conditions. The vaccinated patient has on average 4.6 comorbid conditions. They're a different patient population. Do we have one more slide, or is that our last one? So this is the patients that have died since December. And again, you can see the blue number. Those are the unvaccinated patients. There's been a lot of controversy, and it makes me sad with how much controversy there's been about COVID treatment, about the COVID vaccine, when we have really very clear evidence that we have a vaccine that does work. It's not my intention to come up and be controversial in any way, but it is my intention as a physician, as medical director of the hospital, to be very, very clear that vaccine has and is saving lives. And we have a very, very low rate of vaccination in our community. Some of our communities in Washington County are as low as 32% fully vaccinated, compared to a state average of about 49%. The highest city in our community is still lower than the state average. And our hospital, in contrast to other Intermountain facilities, is seeing more COVID patients per capita than those other facilities. And do more. I think we should do more, and we, the hospital, are here to help people healthy. We're here to help in a time of need and time of crisis, and our ability to do that is declining as the hospital continues to get increasingly full with a disease that could prevent.
Doctor, last week you were kind enough to give some other very human level discussions about the nurses and the stress put upon them and their shifts. Why don't you mention a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you. And I'll ask for Mitch's comments as well on that. As we, and Commissioner Almquist, you were with us as we toured the hospital and shared with many of our elected officials from the state and from the county and from the city what we're seeing. I asked one of the nurses, we've got a number of elected officials here. If you could tell them one thing, what would you say? And she said something I didn't expect her to say. What I thought she was going to say, and I hadn't asked the question in advance, I thought she would say, ask everybody to get vaccinated. She didn't say that. What she did say was, please be kind. Please be kind to each other. And as she described what a day as a nurse looks like, there were tears in her eyes. This is very emotional. This is a very emotional thing for our nurses. We're having nurses leave the profession because they just can't do it any longer. They're seeing more patients die than they've seen in their career on a regular basis. This is not just something that's going to affect us for a day or two. This is a significant issue for us, and our nurses are hurting. Mitch?
Okay, so if there was one wish you could have, we'll ask the question that you asked, that the nurse was asked.
Yeah, nurses run the hospital, doctors don't. It's often said, and I think in many ways that's very true. Our nurses are phenomenal, our respiratory therapists are phenomenal, so it's hard for me to disagree with what this nurse said, to be kind. If I were to add a subcategory, I would say, please get vaccinated. The Delta variant is different. People had concerns. Many people still have concerns, and I understand those concerns. And we've looked at a lot of data. Collectively, as a group of physicians, I've talked to many of my classmates that are in different specialties, practicing throughout the country, from critical care, ICU, pediatrics to hospitalists to OB, and unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation. I take a moment of personal preference, if that's okay, and simply say, when the vaccine became available, it was a very easy decision for me to get vaccinated. I felt somewhat guilty because I was able to get it, and my wife and my kids were not. My kids are all over 12. It was a very easy decision for me to recommend, and for them to say, yes, we want the vaccine as well. Very easy decision for my wife to be vaccinated. I'm not recommending anything that I haven't done myself. I'm not recommending anything that I haven't recommended to my own wife and to my own children and to my own grandmothers and to those that I love and I care about.
Any other questions, commissioners? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for coming. The commission passed a resolution weeks ago that, on my very first motion here, to have everybody get the best information possible, and then they get to make their own personal health care decisions. We thank you for coming to tell us what the situation is, the reality here in our own community, rather than something that's broader, statewide or nationwide, that it's easier for people to dismiss as, well, that's not us. So I appreciate the information of what's actually happening here, just about a mile and a half from this building. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for everything you do.
Thank you, and best to your crew and staff. One of the things we noticed on the tour, which began with information, then we were brought upstairs and spoke with some nurses and some heads of nursing staff for like an entire wing. I can't remember what Vicky's status was, but anyway, then they led us to the actual ICU, gave us some instructions. If you happen to recognize someone, don't share that or don't say knock on the glass or whatever, but it was very sobering to see in the first 3 windows that we came to. One of the nurses said, I think you can see they're laying, we didn't see a face or anything, but laying on their side and sometimes on their stomach just so they would help them breathe. And then more wires than I've seen hooked up to anything, and tubes and you name it. And by the 3rd window, I couldn't look anymore. And because, as your stats showed, they were probably the 3 I saw not vaccinated. And again, like Adam said, we have not mandated and will not the wearing of a mask or getting vaccinated. But then I immediately shifted to all my friends, some of my colleagues, people that I know here, church, neighborhood, who are just defiant and are not going to get vaccinated. And I couldn't look in those windows because I thought someday I might see them in there. And that was very sobering to me because I couldn't stand to lose someone I knew, let alone the people in those windows that I don't know. And so that was sobering to me. But a lot of hard work. Thank you for what you do, and we'll back you where we can. Appreciate your time tonight. Our official business begins with our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda, starting with item A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment for August 18th, 2021 through September 7th, 2021. B is a consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of August 17th, 2021. C, consideration of work meeting minutes of August 12th, 2021. D, consideration of work meeting minutes of August 17th, 2021. E, consideration of work meeting minutes of August 24th, 2021. F, consideration of administrative adjustments to real property. G is consideration of administrative adjustments to personal property. H, consideration of applications for property tax abatement, which there are 14. I, acknowledgement of publishing notice of adoption of ordinance number 2021-1186-0 on Saturday, August 21st, 2021. J, acknowledgement of publishing notice of adoption of ordinance number 2021-1187-0 on Saturday, 21st, 2021. And K, consideration of amendment to agreement 160502 between the State of Utah Administrative Office of the Courts and Washington County Sheriff's Office for bailiff and perimeter security. And that is my motion for the consent agenda.
With gratitude that Commissioner Iverson had to read all that and I didn't, I second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Our regular items for consideration are, 1, we have a presentation of an Employee Longevity Award. Who's from Public Safety is going to address this? James Stanley just volunteered, our undersheriff. Thank you.
What are we talking about?
Adam Andreasen.
I will gladly forward this on to Bula. Many of you know this is 15 years for Bula. He's been with us for quite a while now. He is a lieutenant on the corrections side. He's done both patrol and corrections. However, cops are kind of finicky in that 15 years means nothing to them. They want to hit the 20-year mark. So he will be here in 5 years with regalia on. So we'll see you then.
I have noticed that about him.
Yeah.
Well, he's probably working, so please tell him our appreciation for that.
Mr. Chair, we also had one for, that was awarded earlier today, but couldn't be with us right now, but Leslie in the assessor's office.
Okay,
Fantastic.
thank you. All right, our next item for consideration is the purchase request, or the purchase request. Ray?
I didn't have a quick escape route today, sorry. Okay, the first one I have is for emergency services. This is for sandbags. It's 50,000 in quantity, and that's comes to $11,000. The second one is also for emergency services coming out of search and rescue donated funds. This is for one dual band handheld radio and 5 portable radios, and this comes with all the accessories such as batteries, chargers, and such. And that comes to a total of $10,538. The next one I have is for tourism. This first one is for the production of Land of Commercial campaign. This one's for $35,406.56. The next one is for printed gaiters with the Greater Zion and Iron Man logos. This is for $27,000. The next one is a blanket purchase order for Iron Man advertising and awareness campaign for a total of $63,000. The next one is for an ad buy for August through December for the Land of campaign and this is a blanket purchase order for $450,000. The next one is for the sheriff's office. This is for a concrete block wall. This block wall is to close off the side of the property where the fuel pump is and their trailer storage area. And this is for a total of $10,320. The next one is for a camera install for the patrol building. And this is a cost of $24,104. And that's multiple cameras, by the way. The next one is to develop a civil process management software. The civil process encompasses all papers that are served on the public. Their existing system is extremely old and outdated. The new system would be designed to relay information more quickly and efficiently between the various users to make the process easier for all involved. That's for $18,700. And the final one is for the roads department. This is for a new 2021 cat grader for $266,415.73. But we are trading in an old 2005 cat grader for $65,000, which brings our cost to $201,415.73. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
It's a lot of purchasing there.
That all?
It's mid-year, what can I say?
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
We'll be looking for a motion on those purchases.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the purchase request as presented.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second on those purchases. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ray. Our next item is coming out of our planning office. Consideration of ordinance number 2021-1188-0, an ordinance regarding the current International Building Code and International Residential Code and adopting their respective appendices J with specified changes to County Ordinance Title 9, Chapter 1, Section 4. Scott.
Okay, the information in the ordinance is before you at this time. Every couple of years, the state adopts the latest building codes. The state does not necessarily adopt Appendix J. It's something that, and so we don't automatically adopt that. And so what's before you is adoption of Appendice J for both the IRC and IBC. In the IRC, it has to do more with existing structures, and what it has to do with the IBC has to do more with excavation. And so
Well, you're updating our ordinances to match the standards.
correct, yes.
Okay, any discussion on that item? Look for a motion then.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the ordinance number 2021-1188-0, an ordinance regarding the current International Building Code and International Residential Code and adopting their respective appendices J with specified changes to County Ordinance Title 9, Chapter 1, Section 4.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Also, Scott, consideration of ordinance number 2021-1189-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County at approximately 3200 East Bench Road near Enterprise from the A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the A10 agricultural 10-acre minimum lot size zone, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance.
Just a second, sorry, trying to get the screen so it's not just saying my name.
Who gave you that designation as 01?
I guess I'm the only Scott in the county, so okay. almost ready. Okay, so the Prestons own, Kyle Preston owns property. It's approximately 10 acres in size. It's located just outside of Enterprise. Let me grab my laser pointer out of my pocket. There we go. So here's the town of Enterprise right here. Right here. As you head out, this white line up here is the county line. The parcel is located right here, highlighted in red. It's 10 acres in size. It is currently zoned A20. The applicant desired to build a home on the property, and so they are requesting to rezone the property to A10. The lot would meet the minimum lot size requirement of that zone, and it would allow them to move forward through the building permit process. The requested zone change was reviewed by the Planning Commission in their last meeting, or their regularly scheduled meeting in August, and after holding a public hearing, they unanimously recommended approval of.
Is this kind of bringing the property into conforming zone?
That's correct.
But it had existed.
Correct.
This
What ends up
description prior.
happening is we end up with, in the county, parcels are divided up, maybe a farmer or rancher will break pieces up. State code allows an exemption from the subdivision ordinance if it's for ag use. And then it's once someone comes in wanting to do anything other than ag, which includes building a home, that then the property needs to come into compliance. And so this brings the property into compliance.
Looks like it's surrounded by similar sized parcels that may also not be in total compliance, but are still zoned ag. You can see by the coloration
That is correct.
on the map. Okay. Any discussion on this item?
Seems
for a
pretty
motion then.
straightforward. Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2021-1189-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County at approximately 3200 East Bench Road near Enterprise from A20 agricultural 20-acre acre minimum lot size zone to A10 agricultural 10-acre minimum lot size zone, hereafter described in this ordinance, and that's my motion.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Thank you. Our next item is consideration of ordinance number 2021-1190-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County near the Pinyon Hills subdivision in Dameron Valley from the OST 20 open space transition 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the RE 40 residential estates 40,000 square feet minimum lot size zone, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance.
Okay, so the parcel that is highlighted in red, or the multiple parcels highlighted in red, are part of the Pinyon Hills development. Commissioner Iverson, probably the only commissioner that was here several years ago. The Paces, who have been developing a majority of the Sitla land and Dameron Valley, came in with a proposed subdivision up to the north of this area. It's on the far north end of Dameron Valley. And it was required that they go through the ED master plan approval for the project. These parcels that are highlighted right here, you can see as the subdivision has developed, they've just chunked off where the lots were and rezoned those portions, and then the rest is just remnant OST 20. They don't meet the open space transition 20-acre minimum lot size zone, so they have requested to rezone the parcels. Here is the subdivision plat that was submitted. So the Planning Commission also reviewed this. Now with this plat, different from the one that I was referring to earlier is the utilities are provided, and it was master plan to include these parcels. So the road, Pinyon Hills Drive, already exists, and the improvements have been put in. And so these 7 lots are being proposed for a preliminary and final plat. The Planning Commission held the public hearing for the zone change and the preliminary plat, and unanimously recommends that the County Commission approve the zone change.
Well, and we can appreciate planning staff working with them because it has gone through several proposals, and a couple of which created double fronting lots to the south, which was not really desirable for the other adjacent property owners, and a lot of roadways and cutting it up, and I'm sure they've sacrificed some lots with this plan because the other plan showed it with more lots and smaller size. So kudos to you working with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
So all of the utilities are provided for there.
Correct. Yep.
This has always been a part of kind of the master plan.
Yes,
Developer just likes to eat his pie one slice at a time.
that is correct.
Looking for a motion then.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move we adopt ordinance number 2021-1190-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County near the Pinyon Hills subdivision in Dameron Valley from the OST 20, open space transition 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the RE 40, residential estates 40,000 square foot minimum lot size zone hereinafter dutifully described in this ordinance.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Item number 6, consideration of ordinance number 2021-1191-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County located at approximately 1700 East on the south side of SR 144 near New Harmony from the A10 agricultural 10-acre minimum lot size zone and the A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the RA5 residential agricultural 5-acre minimum lot size zone hereinafter fully described in this ordinance.
Okay. Commissioners, James and Peggy Carter own the parcel parcels highlighted in red. Here's the town of New Harmony. I-15 is just off the page here. And so this is Highway 144 as it goes into town. They have approximately 36 acres, and it is currently zoned agricultural. They they requested to rezone the property, as well as seeking subdivision approval for a preliminary plat for several lot subdivision. I'll show. Right there. There is the 7-lot subdivision that they were proposing to go along with the zone change. The applicant requested, and the way that it is applicants and property owners can request any zone that they want, and it is up to the Planning Commission and County Commission to determine what is appropriate for the area and for the specific parcel. The applicants requested an RA1 zone, and after much public comment and deliberation, the Planning Commission made a motion different from the request of the applicant, and they are the Planning Commission is passing on the recommendation that the County Commission approve an RA5 zone rather than the RA1. Now, what that does is it makes it so that the current 7-lot subdivision that they were hoping to move forward, one of the lots is not large enough to meet the minimum lot size requirement for the RA5 zone, and so the item was tabled so that if the County Commission moves forward with Planning Commission's recommendation, it would give the applicant opportunity to come back in with a proposed preliminary plat that would meet the subdivision requirements. Go ahead and read. So there is a lot of discussion and comments that we've received from the public about both the Town of New Harmony's general plan and their intent for development, and also the New Harmony Valley unincorporated areas general plan. And I'll go ahead and just read a little bit from the general plan. General plan states residential development has taken place at various locations in New Harmony Valley. The Town of New Harmony is located near the westerly edge of the valley. Other developments have taken place near the interstate freeway and south and east of New Harmony Town. In order to give direction to residential development in the valley, the plan suggests a goal to be achieved and policies to help achieve the goal. One of the goals, to provide for residential housing in attractive, functional neighborhoods to meet the needs of potential residents. The New Harmony Valley is an area of Washington County that enjoys distinct differences from all other parts of the county. It is surrounded mostly by public lands, including the Kolob Canyons area of Zion National Park. Development has begun to take place in the valley, and this trend is expected to continue. There is a limited amount of water in the valley to sustain growth and development, but direction needs to be given to the development that does take place to make certain that it does not destroy the open space agricultural character of the valley that causes it to be attractive to the residents living there. There's room in the valley for continued growth, for open space, for agricultural, for recreational, and for commercial development. Efforts need to be made to provide for the infrastructure that will be necessary to serve the residents of the area. An adequate circulation system is one of the most important needs. Through proper planning and adherence to the plan, the New Harmony Valley should be able to sustain the growth. From the wrong page. That will take place and at the same time maintain a quality of life that may be hard to duplicate in any other area. And so it is the Planning Commission's recommendation that the zone change be to an RA5, that the RA5 is low-density residential, and we find it to be in harmony with the intent of the general plan. Now, as has been mentioned with other development that is brought forward, there are some states and jurisdictions that require strict compliance with the general plan. The state of Utah allows a general plan is a recommending document unless legislation is passed or a resolution or ordinance mandating compliance with the general plan. The county has not adopted an ordinance mandating compliance with the general plan. But with that said, I'll show.
What are the adjoining zones there?
Yeah, sorry, I went the wrong way. Just gonna show you. So here is this is the county's general plan map, and the parcel that we're talking about right now is that one with the little finger right there. And there's the Town of New Harmony. You can see I-15 over here.
What are those dots there, the dotted lines?
Red dot.
Very good question. Road connections, I believe. I could be wrong, though.
And that's a BLM parcel across the highway there, up to the top, light tan.
Yes. And then I'll show, here is the Town of New Harmony's zoning map, just as comparison. This is the current zoning map for the town.
Go back one,
Yep.
Scott, and those parcels in brown just barely down the street that all seem like a waffle Yeah, isn't that a 10 acre?
Yes, so this subdivision, many of the lots are 10 acres in size, yes.
Where's the water coming from for development out there?
So the water from this development and the next development that is on the agenda, which is located just north of the Carters, they will have to work together and come up with a solution. The applicants of both projects are working together and have a solution, proposed solution for water and septic. And we have necessary will serve letters on those, but we're not reviewing because
I know we're not reviewing it
Yeah.
at this time, but infrastructure has been hotly debated up there as we
Yes.
looked at any growth.
Yes.
Where are the neighbors getting their water from? Their private water company there?
Correct.
Multiple
Yes.
private water companies or just one?
Yeah, and my understanding is that the private water company was not able to provide water service to this development nor the one across the street, and so they are working on their own to. They would end up needing to create their own body of politic and meet all the requirements of the state before any subdivision could be approved.
Basically drilling for a well, or guess we can have the applicants.
Yeah, the
Tell us
applicants
that.
are here.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question that I should know the answer to, but I can't remember because it's been a while. I've done this stuff. So if something is approved in RA5, can someone can build a single home on an RA5 without getting a subdivision approved, right?
That is correct.
So once the zone change is granted, go ahead and build a home.
They could build one home, yes.
You know,
And
land use-
and an accessory dwelling.
You know, you and I have debated and discussed land use planning across the United States. There are
Yep.
some states that don't have it, for example, Texas.
Texas, yep.
You know, but as we deliberate on these issues, a lot of times, you know, we want to go as far as we can for property rights. At the same time, the property rights on both sides. And in this county, we've over and over again, we've run up against the infrastructure. That's why you see most of your development within city limits, because, you know, once you change a zone to the density levels, that sewer can be provided, water can be provided, electric can be provided. But in some of our unincorporated areas, I think it is prudent, even though it's, and I'll look to my attorney to make sure I'm not overstepping, but as we consider zone change, we consider infrastructure availability and impact on it.
Yeah, the infrastructure, specifically water and sewer, are two of the biggest hurdles that are limiting growth in the unincorporated areas at this time, and that's countywide.
And I think that's one of our challenges, and I don't mean to act like I'm prejudiced, but I do have reservations about the weakness of private water companies, because usually what will happen is a developer will establish a subdivision, establish a private water company, and then it's left up to the homeowners who don't really suspect this when they purchase it, and then they don't realize that, oh yeah, I have water, but now I've got to become a water, you know, manager, and I've got to do this, you know, system. And what we're finding over and over again across this county is that now that our aging private water companies are running up against a $4 million water tank that, you know, a group of homes has to buy, and they're going to the state of Utah. And I can tell you that the attitude from the state of Utah is getting much more aggressive, where they're saying, hey, you know, we just can't continue to bail out small water companies all the time. And I mean, so that's kind of some of my deliberation as I've thought about this particular zone change.
Yeah, long-range planning is a little more difficult in the unincorporated areas than it is in the cities. In the cities, you end up just doing your infrastructure, long-range planning. We have so many entities, and there's such a difference even with the commercial development, whether it ends up being a hobby shop or it ends up being a Cafe Rio. They have different septic needs. And So it's a challenge in the unincorporated area to master plan for this.
Well, and most of us have seen on the news and firsthand the reservoirs that are being tapped out above ground. But it's up to the state to also make some assessments on the water we don't see, and that's what's below ground. And some of the failures around from various states over the last century, but even over the last couple of decades, has been that they've missed the mark and that they have overtapped their wells, their aquifers, and figure the answer is to just keep drilling deeper. And we did receive a letter that hasn't any scientific proof, but what they commented to us about was when those around them didn't have enough water in their wells, they dug it deeper, and it caused that these adjacent landowners' wells went dry at night when they were trying to, where they had automatic shutoffs from their pumps. And then they came to empty troughs and things in the morning. So it's happening here locally where groundwater is a genuine concern. Do we have a state assessment on the groundwater value as well as quality in Harmony Valley?
That is a very good question. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I share the same concern. I mean, I think growth is going, it happens obviously all over Washington County right now. I don't think there's any way to stop anybody from wanting to live here. We all do. But at the same time, I think infrastructure needs to precede growth rather than try and always play catch up. Two questions for you on this then.
I need to correct something I just said. We do have the Hansen-Allen Luce study that is generally followed by Water Conservancy District, Ash Creek Special Service District, outlining the densities of wastewater in the area. So just want to correct that. Sorry, Adam, what was your question?
Well, no, I'm going to come back to that then. So what's the point of that? I mean, you said you have a report. What's the...
Well, we are in meetings all the time at planning staff, and one of the very first questions they ask are all about infrastructure. And the first one is the water study, and Ash Creek has been excellent to piggyback on top of the state's assessment as to judging not only water availability, but also the ability for the ground to accept human waste. And without advanced systems dealing with that waste, typically people will say, well, I'll just have a septic tank. I've got plenty of land. I'll just have, in this case, maybe 7 lots, 7 of them. And yet there's a certain number of limitations that are placed on a valley or an area similar to what we've seen around Vail and others, where the state has said, we gave you, and don't quote me on this number, but we gave you 250 and you've used 245.
Yeah.
And so without another evaluation, then they have these studies that they go by. In Harmony Valley, I wasn't setting up Scott because in reality, we don't have a current assessment, and that Ash Creek is going off of one that was pretty intense in how they studied it out with test wells,
At the
et cetera.
time they studied it, yes.
At the time, and so there are those concerns with an updated study and what might either be left below ground or how many times we can put a straw into it.
Okay. I mean, generally, I'm of the mind that I think people should be allowed to use the land that they own as long as it fits within the accordance of the normal and the historic use of what it is. I understand also the temptation of wanting to pull up the ladder behind you once you've arrived at a location. My family showed up here in 1850. I don't know too many people that are going to be able to beat me on that one. And we could have pulled up the ladder to Washington County, but it wouldn't exist the way it does today. So in fighting
Back then,
that,
most people were climbing back down the ladder to.
hey, a few of us stayed at the top. Well, not me.
It took a
wasn't
tough
alive
person
back
to
then.
stick around back in 1850. So.
But we were a hardy bunch. My question, the two questions I had for you then, Scott, before I got derailed was, did you look at traffic at all? Is that an issue on this?
Yes, all the traffic is reviewed with our Public Works Department. There are standards set in place, and the improvements that are needed would be done at time of subdivision approval. But the the highway can handle the amount of traffic that'd be generated by
Okay.
these developments.
And then the last question is, anywhere else not in the incorporated part of New Harmony town there, but in the unincorporated area, is there any other area that's 5 acres or less currently zoned?
Yes, so the area right over here is RE40. Let me go to the zoning map rather than general plan map. There you go. Whoops, went too far. So here we are again, just for bearings. There's the parcel we're talking about. See that little piece right there? All of this. And over on the other side, this is the interchange. That's I-15. So over on the other side, you have some RE40, and then this is RE40.
This change is not unprecedented.
Correct.
And
Do you
that's-
know how long ago those were changed?
I do not know the date off top of my head when those subdivisions were approved. My guess is about the 90s.
Now, on that property and on the property across there, are there two different water companies that service those, or is it one water company that services? I'm talking about your higher density over towards the freeway.
Oh, to be honest, I don't know
Which water companies?
yeah, which water company covers each one.
There's a private one on the east side of the freeway, yes.
I know there's there for sure.
I don't know how far.
Is that, okay.
Right.
And right now it's zoned RA10, is that what it is, or is RA20?
No, right now it's zoned agricultural, 10 acres. And so the applicant requested to rezone it to RA1. The Planning Commission is recommending that the County Commission approve RA5.
Which would be the same zoning as,
Oh, the pink is RA5? I
said
thought
pink
that
was
was
RA10.
I thought that was 10.
It's,
5?
it's RA5, but the lots are larger in size.
Oh, okay.
So the big pink rectangle, even though it's 10 acres per lot, it is zoned RA5?
Yes, I believe so. I can find. Yeah.
You know, I don't necessarily believe that RA5 is out of character with the valley. I mean, it does provide an agricultural feel with those 5 acres, but I have to tell you that I still have concerns about infrastructure in that valley. I mean, you know, we have not even that many paved roads. We have a dysfunctional fire department. None of you believe that, but I know you all know it. I mean, you have a fire engine and a fire station. It doesn't mean you have a fire department, you know? And,
The new self-driving fire
yeah,
engine?
yeah, maybe we can get
The
Tesla to
Tesla
get
fire engine, yeah.
Hey, there's a concept we ought to pass
Yeah.
on, so.
The Tesla that detects smoke?
Exactly. Big Brother can know everything, you know, so, I mean, infrastructure continues to give me a lot of heartburn up there. We've had this discussion probably with some of the same people in this room before on another particular parcel. And these two pieces of property are very, very closely tied to each other, it sounds like. They both need to work together, right, if they're gonna form a water company.
Yes, the applicant.
Which is what we used to do in 1850. The first thing we did when we got here was form a water company, so.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Are the applicants here?
Yes, they are.
We've
Appropriate if they spoke.
give a moment for the applicants to speak, and then there might be many of you may be in opposition. We're not going to allow everyone to speak because we have a hard stop at midnight. But we would like maybe one.
Yeah, that would require another posting of the agenda, right? If we go into tomorrow.
Yeah, we'd have to start again.
Meetings just for today.
I will allow a comment or two from anyone who would like to comment in opposition, but we want to keep it absolutely civil. We don't make our decisions on public clamor or clapping or any of that. My experience is that actually works against your wishes to come up with clamor and that kind of thing. So, please.
So my name is Jim Carter. So we own the 36 acres. Just to try and up you, one of my grandmothers is a Pulsifer born in Washington.
Fantastic.
So I was born and raised in Canada. I'd like to make 3 points. In asking for the 1 acre zoning, we were following professional guidance of people that are hired in the county. That is Scott and Todd. When this came up before the planning commission,
I'm just saying if there was an existing dedicated road to that parcel that sticks out to the east,
No, there's.
there isn't. It's an interesting acquisition. All right, well, we've heard the sides, we've expressed our opinions. I can make a motion, or we can entertain a motion. I'm happy to make it, or one of you.
I'll second a motion.
I'll make the motion that we deny the request for an ordinance 2021-1191-0, rezoning a certain portion of Washington County located in approximately 1700 east on the south side of SR 141 near New Harmony from the A10 agricultural 10-acre minimum lot size zone and the A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the RA5 residential agricultural 5-acre minimum lot size zone, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
You're not tabling it, you're just denying it.
Motion to deny.
It doesn't
Doesn't prevent them from
It doesn't
coming back.
prevent them from coming back. I painfully second this, because I really do believe that the lot, I don't have a problem with the lot size. I just have a problem with some of the other challenges in New Harmony. And unfortunately, I feel that once you entitle property, through a zoning process, that there's an expectation that infrastructure is adequate to do it. Okay. Support it.
Is this discussion on the motion? It is,
No,
thank you.
no, I
Anything
just,
else?
Yeah, I guess the discussion on the motion is that I'd be more inclined to vote on that. And I guess if it doesn't preclude them from coming back, then that's fine. More inclined to vote on that if there was an opinion from the water specifically.
Yeah, so we might need to give findings at this time, right?
Well, that's what
Mr.
Nicole and
Attorney?
I was just talking about. You guys, findings make Sarah's job a lot easier. If you don't do that, you're giving your reasons now, and she can go through and just make sure the minutes list.
Well, I add to my motion that there's inadequate infrastructure, namely water, to support the subdivision as, well, it's the zone change as is suggested, and other infrastructure items. They've included a roadway that they would build, but I'm not saying a traffic study would be warranted, but I still have concerns about traffic, not over 7 lots, but over the 70 lots that may come someday, and 144, who's going to pay for that? The longevity of the ability for the wells to produce would be another discussion, since we have some evidence that some of the wells struggle when additional wells are dug. And I would have another finding that there's inadequate fire response to 7 homes that might be built here, not only to put it out, but also to even arrive.
And I would just underline that my biggest and greatest concern is that you don't have water. This would be another small water company that have to be put into place. And the water may or may not even be in the ground. That's been discussed, but I'll leave that to the water witchers and engineers to figure out if they can find it. But the other infrastructure needs to be built. But I'm more confident that that could be built once the plat and the subdivision is put together. The water is just it's the biggest finding.
I'd be very interested in this based on that same finding. I could support it. I'd at least be willing to take a sincere look at it, but I second that.
And we'll have to vote on this motion first. And the time frame between, depending on what this vote appears to be, of them returning with that information is what?
State code calls out, and Eric, correct me, state code does have some stipulations in there for when a land use decision is denied, how soon they could come back. It's been a while since I've looked at that, so I would need to,
I don't know off the top of my head.
Do you have any
but,
ballpark? I mean,
for some reason, 6 months to a year comes to mind.
My experience with St. George was that without significant change, like if they just came back and asked for the same thing.
Yeah, next
that's,
month.
That's a year.
Yeah.
If they want to make significant changes as to they can request a different zone, almost right away. I mean, if they said they wanted to go to something else, they could on their 36 acres. They could go to something less dense. But on the other hand, if they want to do this, they would have to make a significant answer to the findings before they could reapply.
so if all they did was come back and could prove up sufficient real water, not paper water, that existed, they couldn't come back for a year? If all the things
No.
stayed the same?
Eric's looking at state code.
No,
I
I'm
think.
saying if they made no
Mr. Attorney?
changes and didn't answer the findings, that would be a year.
Oh, okay.
But if they do some effort to prove up what they have, then it's some other time frame.
And I think as part of that calculation, if an application came in and we were looking at it and making determination, well, can we consider it now? The fact that the original application was for 1 acre lot, and what I'm hearing is 5 acre lots would have much better chance, then that probably is enough change that.
So they could come back quickly. You think that'd be significant? That's my concern. I want to make sure there's the water. So if that doesn't preclude them, I don't want to preclude the developer for a year. But if that's the case, that they can come back sooner than that, if we
Yeah.
can prove up the water, then we
We'll
can
have
move forward,
to-
Mr. Chairman.
We'll have to work on the answer to that question, and we can help the applicant to know that once we have some research time. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I guess, kind of in some summary, if somebody wants to make a 500-mile trip and they have 1 gallon of gas, we want to make sure you really have the gas, in this case, the water, to make your 500-mile trip. Our next item is number 7, consideration of ordinance number 2021-1192, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County located at approximately 1700 East on the north side of SR 144, near New Harmony, from the A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the RA5 residential agricultural 5-acre minimum lot size zone, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance.
Okay. Don't know if you're aware, but there is an application for, this was the Carter's piece that we just reviewed. A parcel that's highlighted in blue is what is being called the Burgess parcel, or Kolob Heights proposed subdivision. The applicants, excuse me, need a bib apparently. The applicants requested to rezone the property from from the current zone,
A20?
yes, thank you, to the RE40, which is 40,000 square foot minimum lot size zone. And with that, they submitted a proposed preliminary plat for, I'm able to see it, I don't know why you guys can't. There we go. There's the proposed subdivision, so north is pointing towards the wood wall. So this is the north end of the property. The Carter's development is down here, across, and that's Highway 144. The Planning Commission, similar to the previous item, did not feel that the requested zone was appropriate and have recommended to the County Commission that they approve an RA5 zone. And again, if the RA5 zone is approved, the applicant would need to amend their subdivision to meet any requirements of the RA5 zone, because it currently does not, as drawn.
Okay, any questions of Scott?
I have a question, just, it's almost back to water. What density do we require fire hydrants?
So we have our subdivision standard, and it does require fire hydrants, and I believe that they need to be within 300 or 500 feet each property.
So even the neighbor's property at 10 acres would have to have fire hydrants in there?
Correct, yeah. And the county subdivision code outlines that. And also Birkin Valley Fire, who helps to oversee development in the county, would review it and point out, make sure that it is in compliance.
Is there a different code for urban interface?
Yeah, so you have the urban wildland interface, and that talks more about defensible space. It's harder to have defensible space in subdivision.
Grassland?
Okay, any other questions of Scott?
Remember all the discussion we've had for the last 45 minutes?
Yeah. So that's kind of a ditto. All right, can we ask for the applicant to come forward?
Good evening, council, commissioners. My name's Tim Watson. I'm with Watson Engineering, and I'm representing the developer this evening. If I can give you a little bit of background real quick on this property. So this is 118 acres. The property owners, which are part of the Schmutz family, they've owned this for 4 generations. And they have over 100 acre feet of water tied to this parcel of land. One of the things that I wanted to visit with you, because I know that that's been part of the discussion, is the water. Now, according to the health department and the state of Utah, in order to build a residence on a home, you have to have at least a half acre foot of water for the residence and minor landscaping. So with this, with the discussion about having adequate water, with this proposal of 30 acres. Now, we do show some lots that are smaller than 5 acres because that was our original plan. We showed 2.5 acre lots plus in size. Now, we would be able to help with some of that water by not using all 100 acre feet. I know that that's one of the discussions here tonight. The state of Utah has indicated that in the Harmony Valley, the duty is 4 acre feet of water per acre of land developed or irrigated. And so by taking that, and we would only be required to have roughly a half acre of water per lot, per 30 lots, we'd be reducing significantly the amount of water that would be pulling out of the aquifer in that area. Now, I spent some time driving around today in this area, and the North Valley Ranches, which was the purple property that sits here to the west of us, it is zoned RA5, the 5 acre lots, even though the lots themselves are 10 acre lots. So what the Planning Commission has proposed to you is nothing different than that is currently there with the zoning. As I drove through there today, they've got some beautiful homes in that area. Of the 23 lots, 23 I think is the correct number, there might be 22, but of those 20 plus lots in the North Valley Ranches Phase 2 and Phase 3, only 6 of them have horses or large animals, which would classify that. The rest have the home and a small area of landscaping around them. And the landscaping is beautiful. Some of them are still in the process. The rest of that area is cheatgrass. You're worried about fire and fire control. That cheatgrass is more dangerous than about anything that we have in our valleys as far as fire control goes. And so that's something to consider. We propose 2.5 acre lots because 2.5 acre lots are a lot more manageable for an individual family. You can landscape a little bit more. If you have to bring additional water in or something else, it's a lot more manageable. And whether you have large animals in there or not, that can help control some of that, the grazing and the cheatgrass that goes in there. So we did originally look at the fire control for the area, and we were considering that 2.5 acres because we felt that that was more manageable for an individual property owner than the large 5 and even larger 10-acre lots that are in the surrounding area. Yes, as indicated by Mr. Carter, the developer has agreed to work with him on a water company. And with that water company, or prior to that agreement, we did reach out to the existing water companies to see what they would, if they would allow us to join them, whether transferring the water rights, bringing additional fees in to help with some of their infrastructure and so forth. But we were denied that. And that's totally their right as a private water company. But at the same time, in order to create great water companies and provide the services, individual areas have to work together in order to do that, because you're able to pool greater resources and create larger tanks and deeper wells if that's what's necessary to help with that. So that has taken place, but because of the situation, a private water company has been discussed. According to Paul Wright with the state water engineer, the DEQ, he has verified that there is adequacy for the water that would be put into this subdivision and Mr. Carter's. One thing I do also want to...
Does he just verify that, looking at your water rights, the dates, or have they come out and done test wells, I guess?
No, there are no test wells. That's a great question. At this point, there are no test wells. The only thing that we can go off of are the wells that are adjacent to this.
Okay.
And it sounds like some of the property owners have indicated that they may be inadequate or having a hard time producing what is needed for that area. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But Mr. Wright did indicate that we do have the water rights available. We do have the infrastructure that can be installed to meet the fire flow and the other demands that are needed for the individual residences in that area. Any other follow-up questions that you might have, Commissioner Iverson?
No, you're doing a very good job.
Okay. One of the other things is we talk about with infrastructure, whether it's the highway coming in or the individual subdivision, infrastructure is paid through by property taxes or other revenue sources. And so it's easier to put some of those in when you do have additional pockets to pull from. You know, unfortunately, the North Valley Ranches area, they came out of pocket with a lot of money to help with their tank and their well. I personally have clients that live in that area, and so I know what that looks like as we've discussed that, and we've helped them try to plan for some other needs. But those infrastructure costs can be shared across the board with multiple property owners and multiple subdivisions if they all work together for the water companies. And then again, we're taking one less straw out of there, because once we have the capacity in the tank, that water should stay there for a while it's being used. And that's, you know, the cost of the tanks are increased significantly. Just because we go from a 50,000 gallon tank to a 100,000 gallon tank, that doesn't mean that the cost just automatically doubles. It's usually exponential in many of those cases. And so it's easier for the private property owners to work together on things like that. But with no requirements to do that, then unfortunately we are left with the responsibility to develop our own water system. And so that's what we have done. Again, if I can go back to the original proposal of the RE40, yes, that's what we requested, because that was our understanding of what we were eligible for. Since then, though, we've worked with the Ash Creek Special Service District and realized that we can only come up with 2.5 acre lots, which would, anything under 5 acres requires a special or alternative system if a public system is not in place. And so we've considered those options. We've performed the soil test pits on each one of those and have been able to determine that an alternative system is adequate for those areas with the soil types that are there. Are there any other questions that I can answer at this time?
Sorry, just to follow up on that. So would the alternative systems be per lot, or would it be a system for the subdivision?
That's a great question. It would be per lot. It would be per lot. Usually when people have to control their own wastewater, they manage what they flush down those toilets a lot better than if it was a public system. And so that's one of the things that, it made more sense to be able to do that, and they had the adequate land in order to do that as well. If I can point out here as well, is this road along our west boundary has been designated as 1600 East. And that road is an easement, and it was granted by the property owner's family for the BLM. Now, there is a subdivision up in this area that has access to that, or using that as their access. But that, from the best of my knowledge, that is the only areas that have a legal right to that easement. But that would be our main access, because after visiting with the engineering department and the planning department, our access road coming off the highway here needed to be greater than 600 feet away from Mr. Carter's, and so we've kept that and tried to maintain that the best we can for safety along the highway and good traffic control measures. But at that point, that's really the main elements that we're looking at. We had some other constraints as we laid out the subdivision, and Scott indicated that the preliminary plat was tabled until we could get through the zoning element of that. But we did, because of the narrowness of our property, we had to be creative, so we didn't violate other county ordinances such as double frontage lots and a few things like that. If we just carried some of these lot lines through and created larger lots, then we'd have a double frontage lot that would front 1600 East plus 1700 East, something like that, whatever that would look like. So we had to get a little bit creative with our lot layout in order to make that work. But those are the main points that I would want to make sure that we put on there, is that, again, we would meet the fire code, which, again, as Scott indicated, one fire hydrant every 500 feet or within 250 feet of a residence. That's usually what the requirement is. We do have the water, paper water associated with that. We have not developed that well at this point, but we are working through that. And then again, what we felt was appropriate for fire control, the smaller 2.5 acre lots were a lot more manageable than a 5 acre lot with 90% of it, maybe even 80% of it is the cheatgrass with those. So, any other questions that I can answer at this time?
Well, Watson Engineering is well known for their reputation of getting things right. My question to you is, when the owners first came in the door and they said, we own this property in New Harmony, you can't second guess their motivation, but what was it?
Well, again, this property's been in the family for quite a while. There is property, they still have relatives that own property further to the east as well. And at this point, they were looking at trying to subdivide the land for family members. They have a larger family, and so they have family members. They have other people that are interested. As indicated before, this is a beautiful area. These people that currently live here I think live in one of the more beautiful spots in southern Utah because of the surroundings and the location. But there's no reason why other people can't enjoy that as well. And they were developing it. Could they go smaller? Yes, based upon some of their requirements, but they felt that this was appropriate and this was something that could be affordable to others in the area that wanted to enjoy the same scenery. Right now, unless you're willing to bite off and pay for 20 acres, it's tough to find any property in this area that you can build a home on. And there are many parcels of land that are non-conforming. So just as we saw earlier, in order to get a building permit on something that wasn't agricultural 20 or 20 acre lots, you'd have to come back and get a rezoning anyway for that. And so this provided other opportunities for people to enjoy the beauty of this area.
Well, you mentioned that 2.5 acres you could add to the landscaping, not if you don't have water.
You're right. You don't. There is adequate water for that with the property that's there. Again, we know that this is all paper, but there is adequate right to that water. Developing it is a completely different topic or element of the water, and so we understand that. But in order to mow or graze or whatever that might be, it's that 2.5 acres is a lot more manageable.
Only in some, and I'm not gonna argue with you on it, but only to some extent, right? I mean, if I had 5 acres, maybe I could have a couple cows. They could help keep that cheatgrass down.
Sure.
2 acres, my neighbors may not want those cows right next to them, right?
Right. And there are
And
restrictions. with-
cheatgrass, look, I live on a fairly large lot, it's not quite that big. Anybody wants to manage cheatgrass, can come over to my house, I got plenty of it to try and keep down.
On any size.
And I'm not on 2.5 acres, right? But I get your point, but unless you're gonna irrigate it to try and keep it under lawn or fruit trees or something to try and keep it, that's a lot more water. 5 acres, you might be able to actually maintain some of the cheatgrass argument alone easier through livestock and grazing than you would on smaller lots, right?
That is correct. You could easily do that. Now, and I'm not 100% sure. I know that with the residential agricultural 5-acre lots, you can have up to, I think it's 4 large animals. I don't know what that restriction is on a 2.5 or something like that, but I know that there is a big,
You know, Scott?
Yes, you can have 1 large animal for every 12,500 square feet with a maximum of 4 large animals on any residential. So even if you're zoned, if you have 5 acres, you can't have more than 4. Unless it's zoned truly agricultural.
Can you have more than 4 or can you have up to 4 on 2.5 acres?
The math works out.
Okay. So 12,000, roughly 12,000 acres, 12,000 square feet is approximately a half acre. No, a quarter acre. Quarter acre. Yep, sorry.
My concern is that if you mentioned that this same landowner owns more land to the east.
So family, not the same owner. So this is their siblings as they
see.
come across there.
Well, hey, big brother did it, I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna do it, and then all of a sudden that whole side of the road is all homes. What did they traditionally use this land for?
My understanding is that they have had grazing on there.
Okay.
I don't know if there's been much irrigation other than I know one of the family properties further to the east has a well on it, but I think it's been more open grazing. We do have the juniper tree line that comes down to about this location right here, and that's where it stops.
So cluster all the homes up in the tree.
So that's a great thought, but as mentioned before, sometimes though when we start getting into the tree lines, we start getting into some different topography. We can see that our topography lines are getting a lot closer together, and putting
Deeper into
clusters up there may make the driveways a lot more undrivable and a lot more difficult to get roads up into those areas.
We can't read your sign, but, well, hold on a second, he has the floor, but if you're trying to say to us that his shirt doesn't match his socks, then we can't read that, so, hold on. Would you, explain to us one more thing, the way you laid out the streets, et cetera, so you don't have double frontage lots, and you've got some that are rectangles going east and west, and others going north and south. How do you propose that your water lines, if you had them, would run, and where do you have a tank? And because obviously you're going to have to.
So we have a separate lot dedicated here as far north as we possibly can for the tank. Our well would be proposed down in this area somewhere. We have it shown on this particular lot, but again, we'll be working with some other professionals to help with that. But we would have a main trunk that would have to run down this east or 1700 east street. But because we also have frontage along 1600, we do have to connect through. We would be providing water lines and water flow on both of those main streets as they come down through there. So we would be providing additional fire protection for that main access coming up to the BLM property.
Sounds like that the subdivision to the west, where they've had to put in an additional $2 million, did they have to build a tank as well?
Yes. It wasn't too long ago that they actually came back in and requested a conditional use to install a new tank.
So what makes you confident that what happened to them wouldn't also happen to you when you have, appears to be about the same number of lots on this drawing
Right.
as they do?
The only thing that I can answer that, my answer for that would be, is that I've worked with the developers of this property, and I've known them for many decades. I've worked with them personally. I know how they operate. I don't know the previous developer. I don't know what his methods were or anything like that. But every development that we've worked with on this property and the property owner have been top class developments. To cut corners is something that they have not done. Again, I've done multiple projects with them, over a dozen projects just in the last probably 10 or 15 years. And every time they go above and beyond and do what is necessary because it's tied to them. And I think that the property owners would be in the exact same boat. As I indicated, their families own this property for over 100 years. If they need to put a little extra water in a tank or something like that to help with that, I don't see that being an issue.
You know, my only challenge is the same challenges we had before, which is these small water companies that are left to the subdivision. And we have to project and think about it, decades out. I really feel bad about this process where landowners have gone through tremendous effort to get to this point, hiring engineers and whatnot. So I'm not saying that I don't want to see this land developed, because that's really not my concern. But I still continue to believe that these small water companies we're kind of setting up problems for the future. In other words, I just see it over and over again in this county, and I believe that you're right. The Burgesses have a great reputation. I don't know what part of the clan your clients are from, but every Burgess I know does a good job, and so I would take your word that this would be a quality system, but it's still a small system that would be left for decades for homeowners to manage. And we don't know that the water resource is as easily accessible as what the paper says it is.
Sure.
So,
can I ask you a question, Commissioner Iverson?
Please do.
So, with every development that comes in, if you cannot, if the existing water companies will not work with you, what other options do we have other than creating our own?
That presents a problem, doesn't it? I mean,
it does, and so that's why we are getting so many small water companies.
Yeah.
There's not a conservancy district that's overtaking. I shouldn't say that. That's a bad word, but helping control the water resources in this area.
Well, what usually happens is conservancy district does end up with them after they're completely failed, and the homeowners can no longer pay the $2 and $3 and $4 million for the new tank. Then they begrudgingly give it up, and there's a subdivision right out of Leeds, which is about this same size, maybe a little bit bigger, that after the homeowners lit their hair on fire and realized that the state of Utah was going to shut them down, they let the conservancy district come in. They put in a tank there, flushed the lines. The lines were completely full of black gunk. People had been drinking. Their sewer systems were right over the top of their well. I mean, that was the type of, that's what I'm thinking when I'm thinking about this subdivision. I'm just projecting it forward 2 or 3 decades, right? And I'm thinking there's homespun right there. Yeah. So.
And that's a very valid point. It really is, and that makes a lot of sense. But we too are tied with what we can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the county ordinance that indicates that adjacent water systems should consider or even allow others to come in as long as they bring resources and finances with it. But so we will always have this issue in this area. Because a lot of the water companies are not willing to work with each other.
Mr. Watson, have you approached the Water Conservancy District about running this for you?
Well, I sat on the Iron County Water Conservancy District for 8 years.
We don't talk about
I know, right?
That's the other side of the line.
But
Are they going to bring water in from Beaver County?
I don't know. That's a great question. That's a great question. But I have not talked with the Washington County Conservancy District, and I don't know if we are to that point that we need to bring them in. If that's our responsibility to do that, or work with the Ash Creek Special Service District as well, I'm not sure. But I don't know if that's again our responsibility. If that's what you told us to do, we would go back to them and start having conversations. But at this point, we have not. Any other questions at this time?
Generally, when you have a tank sufficient to store water and you are getting it from that point to flow downhill again, but you've pumped it uphill. That requires power. And I know that most tanks, once full, if there's no power to refill it, that you have a certain duration of how long you can serve your clients.
Sure.
Sometimes it's 2 days, sometimes it's 5 days. In St. George in the summer, those tanks that are up on Webb Hill, if they don't fill at night, there's nothing in the morning. And so that's only 24 hours. So you have to kind of consider that in your calculations because you got to have consistent power too. And luckily, we don't have long blackouts and we don't have that. So have you considered the fact that there's also going to be a power concern there and just what you would do in a difficult situation?
We have not. There is power along the highway, so we do know that there's power to the property. We will follow the state guidelines for the water storage, and that's not only the use for the individual lots, but it's also a certain amount for fire flow. And so we would meet those requirements, and that fire flow is based upon the number of lots and the demand associated with that. Now, other areas, because of the density of the homes, they probably consume a lot more water than this general area would.
Yep.
But we would meet those requirements according to the state of Utah.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
No questions.
Tim, thank you.
Can I request one item?
Okay.
So, working with again with Mr. Carter, we would propose, if at all possible, a tabling versus a denial today, just because that would allow us to come back quicker if we need to with appropriate, and not necessarily have to meet all of those findings associated that were discussed earlier. That's something that's a lot more doable. It gives us an opportunity and a direction. If you wanted to give us a direction of what we needed to provide in order to bring it back, sometimes that's easier for us to accomplish than a denial, and then it's left up to interpretation of whether we do meet those findings or not.
We'll see what that motion might be.
Thank you.
We'll take one or two comments, but from different people. Did you have a comment, or you just? But you have to come to the mic and speak your name.
If I were you, I'd verify.
Speak. Will you pull the mic down to you so we can get it on the record?
If I were you, I would verify what this representative is talking about, the character of our neighborhood. Our 10 acres, we have 2 horses grazing on there. It's crusted wheat. It's not cheatgrass. So that's just one example of how he's characterizing our neighborhood that is not correct. There might be some cheatgrass on there, but I walk that neighborhood. I work our 10 acres all the time. We have horses. It's crusted wheat. I don't know. The rest of the people that are here from our neighborhood can probably vouch for that. It's crusted wheat. It's not flammable cheatgrass. So that's just one thing that misrepresents the character of our neighborhood, and I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Well, when I drove out there, I didn't see as much cheat along the road as I saw the wheat.
Yeah, I guarantee you it's 80%
Thank you.
crusted wheat.
Yes, right there. Hey, Matt.
My name's Jeff Burgess.
Jeff.
Just to answer a couple of the questions associated with the water. So we own a ranch right on the other side of this lady here's subdivision. And the way I understand it is the problem with their well, the more familiar you are with the valley, the further south you go, the better the water is. And their well was right basically at my gate to my ranch. And it got down to where 2 summers ago, whatever, it was 6 gallons a minute or something is all that it was able to pump. I mean, these guys probably know better the exact details, but so essentially they took and moved their new well down to the highway. And I'm not sure if they've tied it in, if they're waiting for their new tank to be finished or whatever, but the further down that valley you get, the easier it is to get the water that we need. And so to address that issue of running out of water with the location of our proposed well, we should be in that section of the aquifer that it's not as hard to get that water. 400 or 500 feet, I believe, is what they were at my gate. I think that they went down about the same distance down on the highway, and were able to get substantially more water. That being said, on my ranch, we just finished drilling 1,500 feet, and we have 350 proposed actual drilled right now, metered 350 gallons a minute.
How old's that well? Is that new?
New, yeah, it's new. The pump's going in this week, so all I've been able to test it with is the well driller's pump. But by a week from now, I should have an actual pump with the new well. And so the water issue, obviously it's an issue. Their well ran dry. They had problems leaking with their concrete well, which is also on the border of my ranch. And so I believe from talking to the different people that have been in the valley for a long time that the further south we get, the water isn't, actually acquiring the water isn't as big of an issue as it is on the north end of the valley. That being said, so I think that getting the actual water where we're proposing it, I don't foresee being a giant issue. As far as the talk about the Water Conservancy District, we're obviously more than welcoming and open to, I don't want to take care of the water company, but that's the only option that we have at this moment. So that was, I just want to clarify a couple of things that came up earlier when Tim was here. So.
Thank you, Jeff. We're going to let this gentleman here speak with the checkered shirt. Come to the mic and state your name. And
my name is John Popke. I'm the resident there in New Harmony. And actually, we live right down on this area here. And we don't want to see this development per se, because that road, I'd like the county to maybe look into this easement, because I've called the county for people who speeded on the road, and they say it belongs to Washington County. Get them, and then Washington County says, get a hold of Iron County, and then Iron County says, get a hold of the Forest Service. There's a lot of inaptitude going on. But more importantly, sir, Dave Webb is our water manager, and we just dealt with E. coli twice in our well. So would the commission please consider listening to him?
well, if he's the water expert, I think so, but we don't want him to, yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
My name's Dave Webb, and I'm the president of the North Valley Ranches Water Corporation, small rural in New Harmony that has kind of been discussed around all afternoon here. Our service area is comprised of 5 small subdivisions that were consolidated into our service area. The shareholders, we have 45 lots, and the shareholders have inherited some significant challenges. Some of this has been brushed on in your discussions earlier, where we all thought we were purchasing land with an acre-foot of water rights and the ability to get that. And as has been pointed out, That just wasn't true. We had a single well that was, when it was drilled in 1999, was producing 35 gallons a minute. And so we knew that we had problems and we needed to face that. And it's, Commissioner, as you've pointed out, small rural water companies have some big challenges. These were some that we've faced. And we began saving. We knew that we needed to rectify this situation and provide a new source of water. It's taken us 16 years to do that, and we've had to raise our rates to some of the highest in the area to prove our credit worthiness, to accommodate financing for the infrastructure that we needed to solve this. We've worked hard with the state and with the federal government to obtain financing and grant money to drill a new well, which we were successful in putting into service at the end of 2019. And as Jeff just pointed out, we have a new well. We can now provide adequate water supply for the families that purchased their land and thought they had an acre foot of water right to conduct their small farms and small ranches, grow orchards, and take care of their livestock. So we finally have gotten to that point. We're in the process now of replacing a faulty tank that we inherited that does not meet standards, and we're working with Paul Wright and the Division of Drinking Water to get that replaced. We're right in the process of that major capital improvement. So we have spent over the last few years substantial treasure of our own and substantial treasure from the lending organizations. We've taken on some debt, and we've been blessed with some grant money that helped us solve our problems. And many of the things that you guys have asked questions about, the challenges of small water companies, you're spot on in asking those questions. It is a big challenge, but fortunately our community has come together, sucked it up, and allowed and helped us to get to this point. And that's why we can't, we're meeting our current needs and just, that's all. And it isn't that we're not willing to be good neighbors to other entities. We've worked 16 years to solve our problems, and we're not in a position to take on new problems because we've lived through this whole situation. And I just wanted to point out one other thing. There was a study done around the turn of the millennium that done by USGS and the water folks, the water rights folks from the state. And this is a unique piece of property where we live. Ash Creek to the west, a mile to the west, has sufficient water. And where Jeff's new well is, I think probably taps into that, although he had to go to 1,500 feet to get into that resource. We went 700 feet and had to put in a 8,000 foot pipeline to get that water out of the ground, up the hill where it can go into a tank and be gravity fed and distributed to our shareholders. But the Ash Creek is on one side, adequate water there. The escarpment on the I-15 corridor, lots and lots and lots of water. But we live in a reef that between those two sources that is a depleting aquifer. And when you tap into it with additional subdivisions like are being proposed right now, we need to do that very carefully. And it's one thing to have it in your pocket that you have 100 acre feet of water right in your pocket, but proving that up and actually getting that water out of the ground and delivered to people is another thing. And as was pointed out earlier in the discussion with Mr. Banks, just drilling our well in 2019 impacted our other neighbors down in that, quote, richer aquifer to the south of us. And it cost our neighbors money to put their wells down deeper or lower their equipment so that they could still provide for their families. So with that, I'd hope that you give some real serious consideration. Water is, just like the general plan said 10 years ago when it was done, and vetted with everybody that lives in that valley, that water is the biggest limiting factor for growth in the Harmony Valley. And that's really the key question, and you guys already know that, and you've said it this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the comments that we've heard so far. We're starting to repeat ourselves, so we're going to close public comment.
Mr. Chairman, my only question is, if we choose to table this, wouldn't it be appropriate that we table Mr. Carter's as well?
Well, Eric?
And Eric, is that even possible? Already taken
I mean, you guys can do whatever you want in your meeting. You voted on it, so it wouldn't be the first time that you've gone back in a meeting and reconsidered something you've already decided. It is not normal procedure.
Can we blame it on the new guy?
How was that for a lawyer answer?
I'll take the fall.
I mean, I almost view these as the same, at least now, as far as the request. The issue is the same for both, which is, what about that should be the question we ask every time we approve any new building permit in this county, about the water.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we table this ordinance 2021-1192-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County located approximately 1700 east on the north side of SR 144 near New Harmony from the A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the RA5 residential agricultural 5-acre minimum lot size zone, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance, until the owners can prove the real water, not the paper water, but that the real water is sufficient and actually exists on this land to provide for these densities under this zoning request.
Okay, there's a motion. Do we have a second?
So are we talking about the Burgess property? Is that
Yes.
the ordinance that you just?
Commissioner Iverson, procedurally, if what you would like to do is to agree with this, you want to do this the other one, I would deal with this motion
Exactly.
first.
And then we'll go
and
back.
amend the agenda and go back.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion to table this ordinance, or table this item.
Request? Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Passes. Now, it's the discretion of these commissioners next to me what they want to do with my previous motion. Or we can let it stand.
I guess I would ask the property owner. First of all, I don't want to make a motion. Are you? All right. Sorry, I'm just, it's just a question.
So,
Well, I won't.
at this point, I'm not changing my original motion, so if procedurally, I'll let Eric tell us how we can do that.
So we make a motion to go back.
Prior to, like,
Okay,
Like I said, it's
so
not
I'd like to
normal, I
make a
guess.
motion that we reconsider ordinance 2021-1192-0.
That's the one we
That's
just.
wrong one.
1191.
It'd be 1191.
91. To table rather than
well, so I'd make your motion to reconsider.
to reconsider.
Okay, motion to reconsider. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to reconsider. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table ordinance number 2021-1191-0.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay.
You know, and this is the one reason I don't like being on city council, because city council has nonstop land use ordinances, you know, and just,
That's true. That is so true. All right.
It's fun being a planner. I just
I
want
enjoy it when Scott's not at our meeting.
so do I.
Item number 8, consideration of ordinance number 2021-1193-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain. We'll wait.
Now we see who the diehards are.
In for the long haul. Item number 8, consideration of ordinance number 2021-1193-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County by Highway 18 and Baker Dam Road intersection near Central from the A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the A5 agricultural 5-acre minimum lot size zone, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance. The applicant is Josh Bradfield.
Okay, the parcel that is highlighted in red, it's a triangle piece located right there. This is Central here. The applicant owns the parcel. It's currently zoned A20. It is about 10.88 acres in size. The applicant wishes to build his home on the property and has requested to rezone it to A5. The question was asked, why not just rezone it to A10 rather than A5? And he said that he has a brother that may want to build a home in the future. But right now, he just has the plan to build his own home. And with that said, he would also have to go through a subdivision process to subdivide the property for any more dwellings. The Planning Commission reviewed this in the Planning Commission meeting and unanimously recommended that the County Commission approve the zone change request to A5.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Any questions of Scott?
No.
Nope. My turn. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve.
The applicant here.
Yeah, I was going to say, is
Is he?
is there an applicant here for this one?
Oh.
Okay. You want to say something? Come to the mic and state your name for the record.
My name's Josh Bradfield. We are anticipating building a house. We just currently got the well done last week. Our plans are to build a single-family house with possibly the option in the future to let a family member or someone come in next to us on the other 5. We're aware of some hurdles to jump through with septic if we do that. I'm completely fine with Ag 10 as well, just so we can get our housing in order and permits be done. Basically, we're good with either way. I would.
You've heard that A5 is a bad thing.
Yeah, well, I was kind of hoping I could have went before everyone else. But really, our reason for Ag 5 is to leave that option open in the future to build another home.
Well, your circumstance is different.
Yes.
Than what was just here, and you've proved up some of your.
We have a 500-foot well with 400 gallons a minute in it. So
That's a lot of water.
Water's going to be a problem.
Plus, that acreage, I believe, from looking at it, has seen agricultural use there before.
Yes. Yeah, the parcel to the east of us is, well, actually, everything east of us is all just open fields.
Yeah.
Alfalfa hay fields, et cetera.
Yeah, it's got a lot of water. Okay.
Any other questions for me?
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
In fairness, anyone speaking opposite to this one? Okay.
Now can I?
Yeah,
Okay.
now.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve ordinance number 2021-1193-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County by Highway 18 and Baker Dam Road intersection near Central from the A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the A5 agricultural 5-acre, oh, that's what you're chuckling about, 5-acre minimum lot size zone, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance.
Thank you.
I will second that motion. Mr.
Motion
Chairman.
and a second. Thank you both. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item number 9, consideration of resolution number R 2021-2816, a resolution recognizing September 11th, 2021 as the National Day of Service and Remembrance.
Very good, Mr. Chairman. I'll speak to this motion. I think, like the country song says, we can all remember where we were in 9/11.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing that came out of 9/11 in my memory is something that I almost wish we could go back to those days right after 9/11 and the months after it when America was united. We saw each other as one country, and there was a great sense of unity that I think all of us can kind of remember in the air, and it was a special time, even as we were mourning and tragedy and preparing for the consequences of war. Having said that, since then, 9/11 has become a day when we've tried to remember not only those that lost their life, but also the service that was rendered. So the resolution that we have before us today is recognizing that day. So it's a resolution recognizing September 11th, 2021 as National Day of Service and Remembrance. And I'd just like to briefly read this resolution. It says, whereas on September 11th, 2001, the United States of America endured multiple violent terrorist attacks in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania, causing deaths and injuries of thousands of innocent United States citizens and other citizens from more than 90 different nations and territories. Whereas firefighters, uniformed officers, emergency medical technicians, physicians, nurses, military personnel, and many other emergency responders provided immediate service in response to these horrific attacks, whereas thousands of United States citizens and others responded to the aftermath of these attacks by volunteering to help, support, and rescue and the recovery efforts, whereas many of these responders and survivors of the attack continue to suffer from serious medical, emotional, and physical conditions resulting from these attacks, whereas the courageous actions of all who responded to the enduring aftermath of these attacks have become a source of unity for the United States of America and all its citizens, whereas 20 years following the tragedy of September 11th, 2001, the residents of Washington County, Utah, seek to honor and recognize all who lost their lives, those who suffered, and all who courageously devoted themselves to the response efforts. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the County Commission of Washington County, Utah, that Washington County, Utah recognizes, honors, and remembers all fellow citizens of the United States of America who unselfishly and courageously responded to September 11th, 2001 attacks in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the County Commission of Washington County, Utah, that Washington County, Utah recognize September 11th, 2021 as a National Day of Service. We do so in honor of those who lost their lives, now suffer, and served or volunteered in response to those attacks. That's my motion.
I second that.
To the attacks, I kind of inserted some wording there, but that's very well written, Eric.
So Stephen Scott gets credit for this one.
Oh, really good.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Well, I do think it's appropriate that we remember 9/11, and unfortunately our country continues to be in danger, but I think it's important for us to come together and serve, and I think it's a great way to celebrate a tragedy. So
I agree. Motion and a second.
not that we celebrate a tragedy, to remember a tragedy.
Motion and a second to that resolution and our recognize the National Day of Service and Remembrance. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I don't know about you, but I don't think a single day goes by that I don't think about that.
Especially now.
Yeah, now as well.
It's unfortunate, with the fall of, 20 years later, the world looks almost like it did on
Yeah,
September or August 30th,
Yeah,
Taliban's in control.
haven't learned a whole lot, have we? Yeah. All right, but we can certainly honor those that gave up a lot for it. And those who are serving now, because they're facing similar things and trying to prevent us. The only thing that I think that was poignant about our efforts in Afghanistan and the loss there is that, relatively speaking, we have had 20 years of almost terrorist-free activity in the United States, and maybe much of that from within versus from without, but those lives have not been lost in vain. Our next item is consideration of resolution number R 2021-2817, a resolution approving Tourism Tax Advisory Board recommendations for nonprofit marketing, sponsorships, and event funding. Brittany.
We need to lighten things up in here today, so let's talk tourism for a minute. So the Tourism Advisory Board just went through our fall funding cycle. This time we had 9 applications. 5 of them were existing events that we funded in the past, 4 were new. So that's a pretty good ratio. We like to see some new events and some of our older events coming back for sponsorship monies as well. So it was an excellent funding cycle. We did not have any for-profit events apply in this cycle. So the following recommendations were made from the Tourism Advisory Board. Intermountain Triathlon, $20,000. The Zion Canyon Mesa Riding Workshops, $7,500. Arts to Zion Gallery Tour, $14,000. Arts to Zion Distribution of Rack Guards, $7,200. Desert Roads and Trail Society 4x4 Jamboree, $12,000. Utah, a documentary film festival, worth $13,000. Hurricane Valley Chamber of Commerce for printing their chamber guide, $12,500. St. George Musical Theater for marketing their upcoming season of $5,000, and the Uzona Chamber of Commerce up to $6,000 in printing their visitor and chamber guide.
Okay.
And any questions? I've got some of my events are still in the audience if you have any questions.
Well,
yes.
Raise your hand if you are a recipient of some of this. Yes.
One row. Got
I'm
one row.
on
One row of
The
support.
nonprofit row. Well, I know that some had to go, and that in particular, one, the marketing in keeping with your goal from the tourism office of attracting good people here for various events, that their whole effort in that marketing from St. George Musical was out of town.
Broader reach, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
do you know any
And that's the case
details?
with most. I think they'll do a lot of target marketing towards Salt Lake area and probably some in Las Vegas. 5,000 isn't a huge amount, so they'll have to kind of determine where they want to go first, and I believe it will probably be up north.
Chairman, I also have Nate Harward online, just in case if you have any questions.
Great.
He's the Intermountain Triathlon.
Great, thank you.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, I've really appreciated our TAB Advisory Board. I think they do a good job of getting these and getting good feedback, so.
Great. Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to accept the recommendations of the TAB Advisory Board by adopting Resolution R-2021-2817, a resolution approving Tourism Tax Advisory Board recommendations for nonprofit marketing, sponsorship, and event funding, and that's my motion.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for staying for that. Our next item, consideration of resolution number R 2021-2818, a resolution approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and the City of Bergen for funding of an OHV staging area at Sand Mountain.
Hello, Commissioners. I wanted to just briefly speak to the next 4 items, if I could. So these are the 4 capital projects or destination development requests that we received in this last funding cycle. and they were all unanimously recommended by the Tourism Advisory Board. They include the Sound Mountain OHV staging area, a 600 North bicycle trail in Hurricane, Phase 2 improvements to parking and restroom for the Santa Clara BMX area, and the Keyhole, and that's a misspelling there on that resolution. It's not Keystone, it's the Keyhole Wash Trailhead in the DeVario development with St. George City.
Leslie, we'll take each of those independently.
Yep.
But if you want to address the first one, and then we'll have you stay where you are, and we'll read the next one in.
If you want summaries of each of them, I do have copies here if you'd like that. But, and we do have the applicant for the Sand Mountain OHV staging area here for any specific questions, but it is about a $300,000 project. They're just requesting $50,000 to support that. It is brought about by, of course, we know Sand Mountain is very, very popular and very important to our local tourism economy in the OHV community. It hosts numerous events. It brings people from all over the world there. And the current area that has been used for staging, to be able to park your trailer, unload things, is not actually a staging area per se. It's an open area by water tanks that open area, Hurricane City plans to install more water tanks, and so that area will be lost to be used for staging. Just the one side of those water tanks, the Desert Roads and Trails Society has been working with the BLM to actually designate a staging area and build up that staging area, including grading, including gravel, including fencing, and a restroom. And this would go towards that project. It would provide a permanent place for staging to accommodate the use on Sand Mountain.
Well, and when I toured that area and saw the proposed staging area, the new one, it was like 10 times the size of the existing one, and probably would accommodate those that are now overflow into other areas, parking alongside the roadways, et cetera, that are not necessarily as safe or easily, accommodating unloading equipment. So it was a good thing to go and look at.
And we, the Tourism Advisory Board, also liked the opportunity to be able to disperse funds around the county and have some projects on the eastern side of the county. Had very few applications for in the past. So.
Mr. Chairman, this is conversation we've had as county commissioners, is how do we, build the infrastructure that will not only, benefit visitors, but will also benefit the citizens, because often citizens are inconvenienced by tourism. I think this project, and in reviewing the next three, I'm pretty excited about all of them. I think they represent great partnerships, and they're super. I mean, this one's a really good one. Yeah. I mean, the fact that we have the private club that is willing to put so much effort, and they've done great projects up on Sand Mountain as well. So,
yeah,
it leverages every dollar.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, that was my motion. I'm just gonna. It's late in the night. Let's just say I just made a motion there.
So that's a motion. You have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that one.
Just for the record, that is item number, resolution number R 2021-2818, for which we have a motion and a second to the positive. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 12 is resolution number R 2021-2819, approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and the city of Hurricane for funding of the 600 North Trail.
Yeah, so I'll probably let Arthur come up to give details, but this is a request of $986,000 to go toward this trail. But I will say from a regional county trail perspective, it is an important piece in our quest to have a good, solid route from St. George to Zion.
And Arthur is the city engineer for Hurricane, and he's probably starting to think maybe he's in a city council meeting because we've taken so long, you know, but.
Yeah.
You say that louder into the mic?
The last last two city council meetings, zone changes. That brings everybody out. I thought those people were here to watch me, but
Talk about this
they
trail.
left. I just want to say thanks for coming to Peach Days and being in the parade and taking the time to do
It was a
that.
blast.
It's better than Christmas.
It is.
In Hurricane, Peach Days. So the 600 North Trail is a dream that we've had for a long time. Part of it is along 600 North, and a lot of it is not. It parallels 600 North, but it goes north and flanks the golf course at Sky Mountain, the best golf course around. And it's 5.3 miles. We've divided it up into 3 phases, and we're actively going after funding. And this, besides city funding, this is the first major funding grant that's gotten a positive reaction. Well, actually, they've all gotten positive reactions, but they haven't made the cut.
Yeah.
And so we would be so grateful if you approved this, and it will help us continue pursuing this dream and connecting this Grandpa's Pond to the ball fields in Hurricane, which is a portion of the Three Rivers Trail dream.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I was excited when I saw that the TAB board had approved it, excited that Hurricane had put this forward, and they were putting a tremendous amount of resources in it as well. This is a huge step forward in this trail system that we and our predecessors have been talking about for a long time. I mean, this could honestly get us really close. So
yeah, well, talk is cheap.
Yep.
You know,
all right. Well, with that, I'd like to make a motion.
We get the money.
I'll make a motion to adopt. You're almost like an auctioneer, you know. Sold.
Ouch.
So anyway, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we adopt Resolution R-2021-2819, a resolution approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and the City of Hurricane for funding of the 600 North Trail.
And I second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? As unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Art.
Thank you so much. And also, I just want to give my thanks to the Drats for all that they do. And it seems like off-highway use has been cut off and cut off and cut off with the reservoir and with Highway 7. And it's great to see some cool stuff getting developed up there. And these guys, they don't have any cheap talk. They put their money where their mouth is and their efforts, and they've gone up there and done a real cool thing up there, and it's world class. So,
I can remember long before Sand Hollow was built, what was up there was pretty much free for all and wherever a trail happened to be, and now it's the whole mountain and great trails. And the nice thing about it is when you look horizontally across the landscape, you don't see all the trails that are there because they've skillfully put them up in places. I mean, you'll see some go up a hillside, but until you look at the map, you don't realize just how many trails crisscross that area, but it still looks like it's wild. And that's great tribute to those who've put them in there. So, all right, item number 13 is resolution number R-2021-2820, approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and the City of Santa Clara to complete the Canyon View BMX project.
So this request is for $100,000, goes towards phase 2 of this project, which phase 1 had funds approved through this program previous as well. And I'll let Brad give the details of this phase and this part of it.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Brad Hayes of Santa Clara City. Proud to be here tonight. What we're doing is we've built a BMX track. You're probably aware of it in Santa Clara. We've got a lot of people coming from a lot of different states to practice there. Plus we have state events, and we're trying to get a national event in there, a fairly large event. But one of the requirements that BMX USA has is they want the parking lots paved. They can't go with the existing pavement to support the amount. Also, we need it for other events. We have about 22 tournaments that we run out of there a year, baseball, mostly young baseball teams, SU baseball, Rocky Mountain School of Baseball, and other clubs that come in there and play. We also use that also. We play with Washington County kids. We have Thursday nights at the BMX for local kids, and then we also, the city supports Little League. They give the fields at no cost and do all the prep and everything for Snow Canyon Little League. So this would help the city and the area out greatly if we could get the second parking lot done. We've had everything engineered. Rosenberg is an associate, is done the engineering. On the first phase of the parking lot, I actually came in last year with a smaller version of the parking lot when everybody met out there, and we need more. We actually doubled the size of that parking lot, and the cost of that went up substantially too. So we were going to try to do both phases last year, but because the first parking lot came up to $548,000 out of the $165,000, and the other one is $230,000. We're asking for $100,000 on that. So the cities, that's hard match on the city for the difference of what the county's allowed us to have. We certainly appreciate any help you can do to make this project move forward.
A question, Brittany, we paved one parking lot out there, right? That was the one that had $1 trillion worth of economic impact. It's just an inside joke. Somebody left too many zeros on that.
I remember, and I felt so bad, but
we like to talk about the $1 trillion parking lots. So.
What's a zero? I remember that.
So this is just additional. It's in the same area right there.
Right. It's phase 2.
I've been out there. It fills up.
Yep.
Really, I mean, there's still now parking in the dirt and on the street and
on the hillsides.
Yeah, on the hillside.
Mr. Chair, are you ready for?
Please.
Okay, I move that we adopt resolution number R-2021-2820, a resolution approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and the city of Santa Clara to complete the Canyon View BMX project.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion as second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate you.
Next is item 14, consideration of resolution number R-2021-2821, approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and the city of St. George for funding of the something Wash Trailhead. Keyhole. Yes, thank you.
Yes, I did a mistype in one of my documents, and unfortunately that has carried through. It is the Keyhole Wash Trailhead. St. George City is requesting $75,000. The total cost of the project is about $626,000 and change there. It's got a lot of support with the Trail Alliance of Southern Utah, Grow Races, Red Rock Bicycle, Senior Games, Bicycle Alliance, and the list goes on. In the would be part of the DeVario community development there at the top of Sunbrook Drive there. And it is an area where you access many popular trails from there in the mountain biking community and in the climbing community, Green Valley Gap area. And right now everyone's parking on what will be developed and is planned to be developed. And what this does is allow St. George City to provide an area that is permanently set aside and designed for access to these trails and have a trailhead available. And so it guarantees that you'll be able to access those trails, and DeVario, of course, has already planned to allow access from the trailhead through to the public properties that have those trails continuing.
Well, the Keyhole is access to a lot of difficult trails, and people get injured. And part of this gives a spot for emergency services as well to respond, and it's been a difficult thing for them to find places to park and adequately help those on the trail that need it.
Very true.
So
very true.
It's needed.
And what I like about all these, the four, is there's matching, there's partnerships here. So
big time. It's
not just the county working out, writing a check. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2021-2821, a resolution approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County, Utah, and the city of St. George for funding of the Keyhole Wash Trailhead.
And I second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thanks.
we'd like to have an item number 15 wait a little longer. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh my God, that was.
This is the longest meeting we've ever had.
Yeah, this really is. I've been on the county commission for 6 years, and this is the longest meeting.
Item 15, consideration of resolution number R 2021-2822, resolution approving.
I think this is Scott's fault. Definitely Scott's fault that this meeting is so.
Yeah, Scott, all the way. Jason Schoonover.
The new body in the room is right here. I'm just.
As a deputy county constable.
So I can introduce this one, or Nicole, please. Nicole can introduce it better.
Well, I just wanted to say that Andre Brazel was here, and I was hoping that you'd give him an opportunity to speak and introduce Jason. And I guess maybe, Andre, you can kind of explain a little bit about your duties and what you were hoping that Jason would be able to accomplish.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you guys for over the years and appointing me constable. My duties entail some of the same thing the sheriff's department does. I do a lot of civil, from seizing property to criminal and civil bench warrants, from protective orders, just civil law in general. I need a deputy to help me when I'm out of town. You know, there's other process servers out there, but there's only so much that they can do. Like, only a constable can serve, or a deputy can serve, like garnishments or do things like that. And so that's the kind of thing that I need with Jason here. Jason has been vetted by me. Right now he's currently working, got hired with the dispatch of St. George. He's graduated the police academy, so he's Cat 1 and Cat 2 certified. I've had him out. I've been training here a little bit. You know, he has a good head on his shoulders. He works really well with others. You know, that's one of the main things I try to stress of being out there is not only is he representing me in the thing, but he's representing the county. You know, and that's one thing that I stress on is not giving the county a black eye. I was out there doing your best. Just making sure you show everybody respect.
Great. Thank you. Please.
Well, as you know, my name is Jason Schoonover. I've been resident of St. George, going on 5 years now. I love being down here, love this county, love the community. I think my life is kind of based around service. And as I've spoken with Constable Brazel, this is a big stepping stone as far as my career going into law enforcement. As you mentioned, I've been training with him a bit, learning how to become a deputy constable. I also started working dispatch for the county. And then also my third job, so I work here with Matt. We're good buds, and and you know, I'm really looking forward for the opportunity to just keep learning how to become a better law enforcement officer, and then eventually transition into being, you know, on patrol here in the city. So that's kind of who I am, and that's what I'm looking forward to do in my life.
Great. Well, we appreciate both of you and the service that you provide. I don't know about anybody else, but back east in states that have 100 counties, it's hard to get constables and to cross county lines. I mean, there's different rules, and so thank you for what you do. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt resolution R 2021-2822, a resolution appointing Jason Schoonover as a deputy county constable.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you both for what you do.
Unanimously.
Appreciate it.
I want to ask one more question, if I could, please. I know Mr. Hafen was the one that was doing the office.
Yes.
He retired?
Mm-hmm. So Susan Lewis is our new clerk auditor. I don't know if she's still, she, okay, sorry, my line of sight is gone, but yeah. She'll be great to do that for you.
Thanks again, guys, and we really appreciate the opportunity. Washington County. Up for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. See you, Matt. All right, item 16, consideration of resolution R 2021-2823, a resolution approving an agreement between Washington County, Utah and Transcon Environmental Incorporated for an environmental site assessment.
Hey, thank you, everybody. So as you know, we have private in-holdings in the reserve. We've been trying to get them out of the reserve for over 20 years. This is an opportunity with a three-way exchange with the Water Conservancy District, a private landowner, and the BLM. We've already entered into an MOU with some of these partners to spend upwards of $100,000 to help facilitate this exchange. And so while we as the county aren't really responsible for buying out these in-holdings, we do play a facilitator's role. And this agreement will help us to achieve that. So the scope of work that we had was for $9,550. We selected Transcon because they've already been helping us with the environmental work, and they've been selected to do the NEPA work for the BLM. So that's why we selected Transcon. You guys have any questions about the project?
Necessary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2021-2823, a resolution approving an agreement between Washington County, Utah, Transcon Environmental, Inc., for environmental site assessment. Sooner we can get that done, the better.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes.
Thanks, Cameron. And it's just because anytime Cameron, unlike Scott, Cameron.
Yeah. Well, he's used to things going slow.
I was prepared that this was going to be a long meeting, so as long as you come in knowing you're going to be here a couple hours, it doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah. All right. Consideration of resolution number R 2021-2824, resolution approving a formal offer to purchase Sitla lands within Zone 6.
Again, I'll speak to this one. As a part of our amended HCP, there's a change circumstance that is triggered if the Northern Corridor is approved. It was approved, and so our change circumstance response requires us to compensate some of those lands that are impacted by the Northern Corridor. We agreed that that would be upwards of a 3-to-1 ratio, which is estimated about 150 acres. So the county is responsible for purchasing approximately 150 acres in Zone 6. We've identified a section of Sitla lands as probably the prime target that's going to be the cheapest land for us to purchase. It came in an appraised value at, I believe, $11,000 per acre if we bought it in 50-acre chunks. There was also an appraisal for a 300-acre chunk that came in at $8,700 per acre. We talked to Sitla and said, hey, we're actually going to buy an even larger piece than that. And they agreed that they would entertain offers below that $8,700 appraised value. And so I actually even talked to the appraiser. They felt that that was a pretty good offer. If $8,400 per acre was what the county decided to offer, Sitla would probably take us up with that offer. So what you guys are approving today is whether you want to proceed with a formal offer of $8,400 per acre of anything over 410 acres, but upwards of the full piece if you decide to buy the full piece and if that's all needed. And we don't know the actual amount. We're assuming it's 450 acres, but we still don't know the final amount, and that's why there's still some wiggle room in there and not knowing how much total acreage we're going to acquire. But that the price point of $8,400 per acre is what we're considering.
Well,
Commissioners, if I can just speak to this also, Cameron's done a great job at being proactive on this. We have the money in the account right now. Land values are only going to go up over the next 25 years as we, as have the place, and I think it makes a lot of sense on this while our permit's pretty fresh and new.
And any land that's purchased in excess of what we need to satisfy the right-of-way can just be banked later, right?
I believe so. I think you could use it for future grant opportunities for match or something like that. So if you decided to buy that full piece, I think it's 560 acres or so, you could still proceed with that same price point.
And there comes time when, you need to have mitigation. We could use it as mitigation, couldn't we?
Potentially. Depends what it's for, but yes, potentially.
Okay.
Well, it's 10 times what our obligation is. No.
Now, here's the thing, though. If the environmental groups that have sued us prevail, we're going to take and zone that R5. We're going to start a small water company, and we're going to build houses out there.
Yeah. I thought it was tiny homes.
Tiny homes. Yes, we'll build tiny homes.
Or tiny little slow moving. Okay. Cameron, thank you. Looking for a motion on 17.
I'd like to make a motion on item 17.
And I second the motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Approve item 17.
Getting late for us.
It's 7 o'clock. I can't.
Which is our 2021, 28, 24. All in favor of that resolution, say aye.
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 I have to remember
Thank
this
you.
is on Facebook Live and we'll be there forever, so better knock it off with the smart aleck remarks. So.
Item 18, consideration of resolution number R 2021-2825, a resolution approving the execution of a dedicated internet access agreement between Washington County and InfoWest to install a fiber optic connection at the Dixie Center.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2021-2825. A resolution approving the execution of a dedicated internet access agreement between Washington County and InfoWest to install a fiber optic connection at the Dixie Center, and I can't believe that it's taken this long to get fiber to the Dixie Center. Oh, second line, yes,
Victor, you didn't want to bring up Brittany and just have a discussion for a while about this? I mean, we could.
Brittany,
but instead, I will second the motion.
Motion and a second. I think we all marveled, though, at their very reasonable price, so we thank InfoWest for their desire to help serve this area.
And for anybody that really wants to know that might be watching this Facebook Live, this gives redundancy when we have conferences and conventions, and more conferences and conventions rely on technology and they rely on fiber, and being able to have high-speed internet is absolutely essential for us to stay competitive. So,
right, and the public side becomes public, and the behind the scenes side, the business side, remains separate. So, much faster, much better. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, passes. All right,
Brittany, I hope you didn't feel bad about not having to explain that. I mean, I know we're slow, and it does take a lot to explain things to us, but we picked up on that.
Thank you. Item 19, consideration of resolution R 2021-2826, a resolution regarding a proposed fee schedule for Angels Landing hiking permits for Zion National Park.
This is me, Mr. Chairman, and Zion is proposing to move forward with this from Scout Lookout to the top of Angels Landing, going through the chains. I think this is an important thing for the health, safety, and welfare of the people, the tourists, as well as the residents who visit Zion National Park. Angels Landing is one of the most popular hikes ever, rightfully so. It is a beautiful spot when you get up to the top, though terrifying to get there, even if you were alone. It makes it much worse when there's so many people along the chains and trying to pass each other on what should really be a one-way path. And so in trying to address that, Zion National Park is proposing a reservation system for that last top portion of the hike. Some of their fee structure is a little bit deceiving. It's $6 to apply, and that does not go to the National Park Service. That goes to those who created and fund recreation.gov, and that was not negotiated, nor is the National Park Service happy about that fee. That was negotiated by another federal agency because federal agencies are not good at negotiating. And so, but there would be, if you're successful, there is a fee in conjunction with your however many tickets you've put in for in the lottery. I think it's a good thing for the health, safety, and welfare of the people at the top. There's other areas of the park that may not be good for permitting, but this one is a dangerous area and not a great experience when you get to the top and there's 100 other people sitting on the same postage stamp of land trying to get a good, have a good experience. So that's what this resolution is.
All right, and there's some points on the resolution which are directly in line with yours. One of them, though, is a statement that we oppose that lottery fee of $6 per applicant, and we hope that at some point that'll change into something that's more palatable.
Yeah.
There's a motion.
And there is also a second.
A motion and a second, and I'll editorialize a little bit further in that we hope that while this is for health, safety, and welfare of those hiking I'm just glad it's open, because the first time I went up there, I thought, wow, they're letting anybody up here? And so now it's going to be a little bit better regulated, and more than once having helped somebody off of that trail, I know that this is valued, but I don't want it to be a foothold into their attempt to make every trail in Zion a fee trail. So having said that, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're down to our commissioner's report. Shall we talk about zoning?
Yeah, let's talk about zoning.
You know, Mr. Chair, I've only got 20 or 30 minutes worth of stuff here.
Okay, go. Well, let's just say for the record, we're doing a lot, and we're so thankful for our staff, for our attorney, for our county administrator, you just name it, because they help us get all of this done efficiently. So thank you to the other elected officials as well. And with that, we'll stand adjourned.